if you never leave the town, you grow up with the same people, you go to the same bars, and you interact with the same people. So when you try to change your life or become a different version of yourself, a better version of yourself, you've all this reality and all these people to pull you back down. Like, I used to get it even when I worked in the bars and I was training and all this stuff. Like, people would ask me, did I think I was better than them? Oh, do you think you're better than me because you do martial arts? Do you think you're better than me because you are interested in philosophy and reading books and going to events? Like, their insecurity was pushed onto me, and then I was supposed to feel bad that I was trying to better myself, and they were happy staying in this circle in the Groundhog Day of their life. Most men are trying to be nice. Like, they cut off their power, their intensity, they shut down their energy because they don't want to come across as being too much. So I've had this a lot in my life. I'm normally a pretty easygoing person, but I do have a lot of thoughts and ideas and points and things that I think are important. And a lot of the time you get people telling you that, you're just too much. That's just too much. Like, no one really cares about that stuff. And it sort of dampens your spirit over time. And I noticed this a long time ago. And thankfully, I don't know why I've been like this, but I've always been someone that really stood up for myself, that didn't let people take me down, didn't let bullies win. I always was someone, even when I was really young, it seemed to be like a lack of fear. I wasn't afraid of violence, and I think even when I was really young, I wasn't afraid of violence. Even when your mum hits you with a slipper or a wooden spoon that they deny doing, but I wasn't afraid of violence, and because of that, people calling me names or being verbally abusive didn't have any real effect on me because I thought, well, the next step is violence, and I don't really care about that, so it doesn't really have much effect. But I've noticed with working with men for a long time, and just in general society and with social media and everything, that there men are now trying to fit into boxes that they don't fit into. So they're trying to be nice. So they're cutting off their anger, their intensity, their sexuality, like everything, just to fit and be someone that fits into the group that they're in. Like, in wee towns like the town I live in, and this is everywhere, it's not just in my town, but if you never leave the town, you grow up with the same people, you go to the same bars, and you interact with the same people. So when you try to change your life or become a different version of yourself, a better version of yourself, you've all this reality and all these people to pull you back down. Like, I used to get it even when I worked in the bars and I was training and all this stuff. Like, people would ask me, did I think I was better than them? Oh, do you think you're better than me because you do martial arts? Do you think you're better than me because you are interested in philosophy and reading books and going to events? Like, their insecurity was pushed onto me, and then I was supposed to feel bad that I was trying to better myself, and they were happy staying in this circle in the Groundhog Day of their life. So because of that, we end up trying to fit ourselves into these little, Liam is this sort of person, and that's who I have to be all the time. We come home and then we take the mask off. So even just early on in this podcast, just think to yourself, like, what mask do you have to put on before you leave your house? And then, do you have multiple masks? Do you have a mask for work, a mask for certain friends, a mask for being on your own? Like, I thought about this yesterday when I was just walking through the glens by myself, and I'm setting up my camera and I'm taking photos and I'm hunting down deers. And I just be thinking, if I had done this 20 years ago with the people that I hung about with, it would have been very strange. Like, I was already very strange because when they were taking drugs and drinking, I was doing secret workouts and, like, even doing dynamic strength workouts whilst people were talking absolute shite to me because they were full of drugs. I was already a bit of an outcast, an outsider, but I was safe because I did martial arts, so you could get fucked up on your drugs and you knew that I'd keep you safe because I was sober. So ask yourself, what masks are you putting on? Um, so the idea behind this podcast is, I'm going to pronounce this wrong probably, but It's Jungian shadow integration. So this is about like the parts of you that you like, your anger, your frustration, your lust, ambition, selflessness, power. It's it's about how we should be integrating that rather than trying to bury it. So this is from a guy called Carl Jung. So he called the parts of yourself we repress, deny, or disown. So that's what the shadow integration is all about. So it's not the shadow stuff isn't evil. It's just your unconscious, and it's usually like our anger and frustration, and is coming from not dealing with things that we're not happy about in our life. Lust and our sexuality, they come from like not understanding as we were younger, because we were trained like you need to hide your sexuality, hide your erection, like tucking it in under your belt at school. It was a random memory. Not that I ever had to do that. I went to an all boys school. Uh, you so hiding your sexuality and how you felt, and like boys generally will become mentally more sexual active than women, but our options are usually very limited. So then we don't know, no one talks about it, and sometimes you can't really talk about it with your friends because it's weird. So then you have to try to work out how to deal with all this yourself. So what we normally do when we don't understand something is we bury it and we try not to think about it and try not to deal with it. And when you do that, it means that you don't own your shadows, you don't own your emotions, you don't, whatever you want to look at it. So shadows for this episode, but they're basically just emotions. You don't own them. So if you don't own them, then they own you. So you don't want that. So the easiest example is road rage. People trying to be nice all the time, and they be nice at work, and they be nice with their spouse, and they be nice with their partner, and they be nice with their kids and their dog, and they get in the car and somebody slightly irks them by cutting off, and they fucking blow up and they become like mental. Like that's because the you don't have control over the anger or the emotion or the shadow. It's going to come out somewhere, and usually it comes out where where it's kind of safe. So an example that I would use as well in a real life example, I had a friend that used to used to have like a negative relationship with their family, and they hated their job, but they never ever kicked off with their family, and they never ever kicked off on their job, but they would kick off at me at the slightest inconvenience. And we talked about it one time, and I was explaining to them that it feels like to me that I'm a safe space for you to kick off in, because you know that I'll not take it seriously, or I'll not take it to heart, I'll not take it personally. We can talk about it after, and then we'll just move on, and the friendship will just continue the way it is. And they agreed that they were afraid to kick off at home because of the consequences, and kick off at work because of consequences, but because they knew I was not going to react like a normal person, is how it was put, then the consequences weren't as bad, and then usually I would fix the situation. There'd be apologies, and then we would just move on. I'm not advising anyone to. It's not a great position to be in when someone's always giving you their fire. But when you live the warrior's path, you have a lot more techniques that you can deal with it, so that you don't take it personally. It doesn't really affect you. It just becomes fucking annoying because you have to listen to all their shit all the time. So I've put a few examples here that if you were if you didn't suppress the shadows and you actually channeled them, what that could look like. So if you channel anger, it can become courage. And I've wrote here, anger is often suppressed because it's seen as destructive or volatile. But when integrated, it becomes the fire that fuels your boundaries, your assertiveness, and your righteous action. So whenever you are, a lot of people will make decisions based on, they'll put the decision off, they'll get angry about it, and then they'll make the decision, especially in an argument or in a frustrating interaction. If you control your anger, you can then channel it into, like, I'm very good at boundaries, like to the point where it seems rude. I'll say no to weddings, parties, meetups, coffees, If I don't want to go to it, if I'm not interested, I'll say no to anything. And then people get slightly insulted. Again, that's on them. It's nothing to do with me. But that comes from like turning that anger into courage. I used to be a very angry young person. That's probably why I liked violence so much. So whenever you're whenever you control that, you don't suppress it anymore, you control that anger, you have a lot more courage. Lust, something I've talked about a lot to people, and we'll talk sort of related to the last podcast we did. But if you do lust, you control your lust, then you become someone who is very good at intimacy. So even though I'm a single person, I have, believe it or not, still had sexual encounters with females. And they still are intimate, even though there's no intention of relationships, there's no intention of dating, anything like that. The intimacy is still there because I'm not just reacting on lust alone, I'm controlling that lust and I'm channeling it into intimacy. So lust is often reduced to base desire or shameful cravings. I worked in the bar for 13 years. Lust made men and women do some stupid shit and stupid people. Over the years, like the amount of times I get a wee text being like, "You fuck, you're not gonna believe what I did last night or who I did last night," or like, "You're not gonna believe where I am now." Like people who told me that someone was a psycho and then they text you the next morning, "I'm actually at this psycho's house," and you're like, that was lust fueled by alcohol and drugs, lack of self-control, basically. But if you channel your lust and understand what lust is, then rather than just reacting off lust, you can create uh, like intimacy. So lust is a shallow version of a desire for deep connection. So lust is you allowing your primal instincts to override your everything else, your logic, your like basically everything. You're just letting lust override everything. I was going to go into a whole spiel there, but basically that one sentence will do it. So I've wrote here that if you lust will become your presence in intimacy, so you can have an intimate interaction and be fully present in that moment because you believe you deserve to be there. You really want to be there. The person you're with wants to be there, or the multiple people, whatever it is, they want to be there with you. That makes for a much more deeper, fun, intimate connection than sleeping with someone because you think you're being lucky. This is like the fucking statement, I got lucky. Like, you shouldn't get lucky. That's just mad. So sleeping with them because of luck or like fluke, you're kind of trying to get the most out of that situation now because it'll never happen ever again. Whereas when you control your lust and turn that into intimacy, you believe that these types of experience are you're deserving of them, so more of them are going to happen, and it's a much better experience for both people or the multiple people that are there and involved. Aggression can turn into drive and protection. So aggression can look like violent or dominating when unchecked, but at its core, it's raw power, direction, and the instinct to protect what matters. It's just you're not articulating it well. You want to, if you can take your aggression and control it, focus on it, sit with it, and have ownership of it, then you will create clarity, focus, and then commitment to your mission. Like, I'm pretty aggressive about the mission that I'm on at the minute and every other mission I've ever been on, but not in the usual violent or dominating way that people will see aggression. So if you look at these ones, lust, aggression, anger, it's usually misunderstood emotions out of fear. Like, people are afraid to be lustful, to be aggressive, to be angry, but they are things that we have inside us, and if we don't deal with them, we try to bury them, they're going to come out in some sort of way that creates a negative impact in your life. So your shadow isn't trying to ruin your life. It's just trying to equip you. So maybe you need that anger because of the situation that you're in. But if you have more control, you don't need to. So you don't need to use anger. You can use your courage instead. So the last point that I wanted to make is why suppressing power makes you weak. So the world doesn't need more weak men pretending to be kind. This comes back to martial arts and everything. I love the fact that I'm comfortable doing martial arts. I'm comfortable at being physical because now I never have to be. Like the more martial arts I learned, the more comfortable I came in sparring and just with everything within the martial art, the less I had to control and restrain people when I worked in bars. I was able just to verbally talk to them because of my confidence in my ability. There was no anxiety, there was no fear. I wasn't uncertain about the interaction I was having. I was very certain that if it went to violence, I'd be fine. So the more I learned, the less I had to do. But if I was just like, I've met so many of these over the years, people that did like armchair black belts, we'll call them, where they did like karate when they were 18 and they're now 45 and they're like, oh, I was a black belt in karate like 20 years ago or whatever. You're like, brilliant. Like, you're probably not, if you haven't done it in 20 years, you're probably not going to be that good at it now. So you don't need to be someone, we don't want you to be full of shit either. We want you to master your own emotions, master your own self-belief and self-awareness. So when you master those two things, and three things, I suppose, your emotions as well, then nothing can really knock you off your path. So being a good man doesn't mean being tame, it means being trained. So that's, the more you train in all of this stuff, the more it becomes, like Tom Lamont used to talk about, you don't want your martial arts to be second nature, you want it to be first nature. And he didn't mean just that, like someone says hello when you punch them in the head. He meant your deep understanding and the way you live your life. The way you live your life was as a martial artist. So the way we're living our lives is as a warrior. A warrior is someone who has these beliefs and these core intentions, and they sit at the surface level. They go very deep, but they also sit surface level. We take all our masks off. We don't care about how people react to us, what people think of us. None of that matters anymore. We take our masks off and we be the person. So I've been talking to this with clients. We're not trying to be somebody new. We're just trying to remember who we actually are. So I'm a firm believer in energy doesn't die. It just goes somewhere else. So the energy of the universe is we can tap into it, just like sitting in this room now, even though I've no radio on, there's radio waves we cannot see. If I turn the radio on, then I'm going to hear a version of one of those waves. And if I keep changing, then I'll get more and more. So there's a lot of going on that we can tune into that will help us to reinforce and unwrap the masks, the cloaks, the basically stop you from hiding. That's the goal. That's the goal with the Warrior podcast. So let me know how you feel about this. If you do any of the techniques that we've talked about over the last few weeks, reach out to me as well. And if you want me to really dial in on anything, let me know that too. So have a super awesome day, whatever you get up to, and I'll speak to you again soon.